There is something in Stalker 2 that you only notice after a long time playing. It seems like the zone starts to study you. It is not explicit, it is not a system the game explains, but the feeling is there the whole time. The more you play, the more it seems the game responds to your behavior in a strange, almost organic way. At first, you move by impulse. You walk fast, make noise, rely too much on the resources you have. But after a few hours, or rather, after a few well-placed deaths, you start to change. And the most curious thing is that it does not feel like a conscious decision. You simply start to hesitate before entering a building, start to look more at the corners, to listen more than to shoot. After hundreds of hours, this becomes even stronger. You walk slower without noticing. You prefer to avoid direct confrontation. Any distant sound puts you on alert. It is not just the game getting harder, it is you who have become different. The zone hasn't changed that much. What changed was the way you see it. And then comes the most interesting part. It seems the game follows this rhythm of yours. Encounters become tenser, situations seem more unpredictable, and all this reinforces the feeling that you are never truly safe. It is almost as if the game were conditioning you to play in that more cautious, more paranoid way, more like a survivor. Stalker 2 is not just about learning mechanics or mastering systems. It is about how the game, little by little, shapes the way you think. When you realize it, you are no longer playing like you did at the beginning. You are playing like someone who has survived the zone, and that changes everything. Stalker 2 is one of those games that manages to make you feel lonely, even when there are NPCs, bases, and people talking the whole time. Because the loneliness here doesn't come from the absence of people. It comes from the feeling that no one is truly accompanying you. You are surrounded by voices, but you continue carrying everything alone, as if every step in the zone were a decision made by you and only you. What gets me the most is how the game turns silence into weight. In many moments, you are not just crossing an empty landscape. You are listening to the wind, the footsteps, the distant noises, and feeling that anything can happen, but with no one to protect you. This feeling of isolation grows precisely because the world seems alive, only never welcoming. Even when someone is nearby, Stalker 2 still gives that impression of distance. Characters talk, ask for help, exchange information, but deep down, you feel like you are just passing through like a temporary survivor in a place that belongs to no one. It is rare for a game to do this so well, placing you among people and still leaving your head filled with emptiness. To me, this is one of the game's greatest strengths. It does not treat loneliness as a beautiful or contemplative void, but as something uncomfortable, almost too heavy. You start to realize that the zone does not want to embrace you. It wants to wear you down. And the more time you spend in it, the more you understand that being surrounded is not the same as being accompanied. Stalker 2 is about this, about walking through a world full of presence and still feeling that no one will live your experience for you. And that is a loneliness much stronger than simply being alone. It is the loneliness of being the only one responsible for surviving, for deciding, for failing, and for moving forward even with no one by your side. After 500 hours, Stalker 2 gets much better when you stop trying to win the game. Instead of thinking about perfect loot, efficient routes, and accelerated progression, you start to play the way the zone really asks, with calm, with fear, and with respect. And honestly, it was only when I dropped this optimization mindset that the game started to work for me. At first, I treated every area like a spreadsheet. Get in, take everything, leave alive, upgrade equipment, repeat. But that made me see the game as a system to be mastered, not as a place to be lived. When you play like that for a long time, you lose exactly what is strongest in Stalker 2, the tension of not knowing if you are prepared enough. The turning point happens when you accept that surviving is more important than winning. Sometimes it is more worth it to bypass a confrontation, abandon a rare item, or simply sleep at a base and continue the next day. It seems minor, but this way of playing makes everything more human. You stop acting like someone trying to clear the map and start acting like someone trying to get home. And that is where the game gains another layer. Each decision ceases to be about efficiency and becomes about instinct. You hear a strange sound and back away. You see a dangerous area and decide not to push it. You get into a shootout and realize that maybe the best victory is coming out alive, even without taking everything you wanted. This completely changes the way the zone is felt. S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 gets better because it doesn't just reward those who want to advance fast, but those who understand the value of simply existing in that world. And after many hours, it is almost liberating to stop trying to control everything. When you accept the mess, the scarcity, and the improvisation, the game finally stops feeling like a race and starts to feel like real survival. After hundreds of hours in S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, you start to notice something few modern games manage to convey. The zone is completely indifferent to your existence. You are not the chosen one. You have no marked destiny. You are not the protagonist the world expects. If you die, it stays there, not caring, not changing, not bending to your story. In so many other games, the world revolves around you. NPCs wait for you, missions disappear if you take too long, the weather changes, the story adjusts to your pace. In S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, none of that exists. The zone follows its own course, with its anomalies, mutations, and dangers, without giving a damn about who you are or where you are going. You can disappear for days in the game, and it will be there, exactly the same way. This indifference creates a rare feeling of smallness. You are not special, you are not protected, you are not the center of anything. You are just one more person trying to survive in a place that belongs to no one. And ironically, that is what makes you feel so alive within it. By not being the hero of a grand story, you become someone real, fragile, human. The zone does not judge you, does not punish you, does not reward you for being worthy. It just exists. You enter, try to survive, and if things go wrong, they go wrong. There is no drama, no epilogue, no grandiosity, just the reality of a world that does not need you to continue existing. And that is liberating because it takes away the burden of having to win the game. In the end, this indifference is what makes S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 so unique. It is the feeling of being in a place that really exists outside your head, that does not revolve around your choices. You enter the zone as a stranger, leave as another stranger, and it remains there, motionless, silent, completely oblivious to your journey. After 500 hours, silence became the best part of S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2. It is not that empty silence of a game without audio. It is the heavy silence of the zone, full of ambient sounds you start to pay attention to in a way you didn't at the beginning. Walking without background music, without constant dialogue, without action exploding around you, became more striking than any intense shootout. At first, I always looked for something happening. I wanted missions, encounters, shootouts, something to justify my presence there. But over time, I realized that the strongest moments of the game are precisely those where nothing happens. You walk along an abandoned road, the wind blows, the radio crackles in the distance, and the weight of the silence wraps around you completely. It is in these kinds of moments that you truly feel you are inside the zone. The absence of constant music is what gets me the most. In so many games, the soundtrack tells you what you should feel. In S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, you need to feel on your own. Sometimes the silence is tense, sometimes it is melancholic, sometimes it is just silence. And that is what makes the experience so personal. You give meaning to every quiet moment yourself, without someone telling you how to react. Shootouts remain important, but they have lost that central place they had at the beginning. Now what remains in memory are the long journeys, the moments of pause in a shelter, the feeling of being alone in a world that seems to be in no hurry. Silence became part of the narrative, not just the absence of sound, but a language of the game itself. After so many hours, I realized that silence changed me within the game. It made me walk slower, observe more, feel more. And, ironically, it was in the moments when it seemed like nothing was happening that I truly felt something important was happening to me. Silence, today, is what makes me come back to the zone most. Today is what makes me come back to the zone most. After several hours, S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 starts to create stories that feel like real memories, not just game events. What happens is that random moments, an unexpected encounter with a mutant, an anomaly storm in the middle of the road, an NPC helping you for no apparent reason, start to stick in your head as if they had happened in your own life. At the beginning, I saw everything as a mechanic. That was a spawn, that was a quest, that was a programmed event. But with time, the way I lived these moments changed. I remember a specific night when I was crossing an open area, heavy rain falling, and suddenly a group of enemy stalkers appeared out of nowhere. There was no preparation, no strategy, only instinct. And to this day, this feels like a memory of mine, not a scene from a game. This turnaround happens because the game does not warn you when something important is going to happen. There is no indicator, no alert music, no this will be memorable. You just live the moment with fear, doubt, adrenaline. And it is this lack of control that makes the event seem real. Your mind does not mark it as gameplay, it marks it as experience. What surprises me the most is how these personal stories become unique to you. Two players can pass through the same place, but live completely different things. One might have a long chase with a bloodsucker. Another might simply survive an anomaly storm. And each one takes that as their own memory, as if that experience had been made for them. After many hours, I realized that S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 didn't just give me missions or achievements, it gave me stories that I carry with me, that I tell as if they had really happened. And this is proof that the game achieved something rare, transforming mechanics into memory, event into experience, and gameplay into real recollection. Constant discomfort is what makes this game unforgettable. It is not a fleeting discomfort, something that goes away after you learn the mechanics or get better equipment. The tension never goes away completely. Even well-equipped, even knowing the map, even with weapons and resources, you never feel truly safe. At first, I thought the discomfort came from the lack of resources, that when I had better armor, more ammo, better gear, then I would relax a little. But the game showed me that is not how it works. The zone does not let you settle. No matter how much you improve, there's always something waiting in the dark corner. There's always a strange sound that makes you freeze. There's always the feeling that something will go wrong. This permanent tension is what left the biggest mark on me. In other games, discomfort is temporary. You die, respawn, improve, and then you can advance with more confidence. In S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, even advancing, even getting stronger, the fear remains. It just changes shape. It ceases to be fear of death and becomes fear of the unknown. Fear of what might appear at any moment. Constant discomfort also keeps you connected in a way few games manage. You cannot let your guard down. You cannot walk distracted. You cannot trust too much. Each step demands attention. Each decision carries weight. And with time, this becomes part of how you play, part of how you think inside the zone. It is no longer a choice, it is a necessity. After more than 500 hours, the zone makes you slow down without you noticing. At first, I entered the game running like in any FPS. Advance fast, shoot first, investigate later. But little by little, without even noting it, my way of playing changed completely. I stopped more, listened more, observed more. And this was not a conscious decision. It happened naturally. In the beginning, every building was a place to be cleared fast. Every corner was a calculated risk to get past quickly. But with time, I started to notice that the game punished those who ran too much. An invisible anomaly, a hidden mutant, an unexpected shootout, and you would die without understanding what happened. Little by little, I started walking slower, investigating every corner before entering. Today, I observe every sound as if it were a signal. Each distant noise becomes information. Is it wind? Is it someone? Is it something worse? Each building becomes a decision, not just a destination. Each move of mine is thought out before it happens. And the most curious thing is that this didn't make me play worse. On the contrary, I survived much more than when I was running non-stop. Slowing down also changed how I see the game world. Before, I passed through scenes without noticing details. Now, I stop to look at landscapes, abandoned structures, tracks on the ground. The zone became a place to be lived, not just traversed. And this made everything more intense, more real, more mine. In the end, what strikes me most is that I didn't even realize when this happened. It wasn't a choice, it was a natural survival process. I entered running like any FPS and finished observing every sound, every building, every movement. And it was in this silent deceleration that I found the most profound way of living within the zone. The longer you play S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, the less the game feels like a video game. At first, there is still that game mentality. Looking at inventory, checking missions, thinking about loot, about progression. But with time, all this fades into the background. What remains is the feeling of existing within a world, not just playing in it. The immersion grows in a silent way. You start to create routines within the zone, returning to the same base, following the same path, checking the same corners. Not because the game forces you, but because this becomes part of your rhythm. It is as if you had developed a survival routine, and no longer a sequence of game tasks. Survival ceases to be mechanics and becomes a feeling. You no longer think about losing health or losing equipment, you think about getting home. Each resource becomes something valuable, not because of the crafting system, but because you learned that everything is scarce. Each decision gains weight, not because the game has an important mission, but because you feel you are risking something real. And that is where the magic happens. You stop seeing the world as a background and start seeing it as a place. The ruins, the abandoned buildings, the distant sounds, everything becomes part of your experience. You are no longer playing Stalker 2, you are living in the zone. And this completely changes the way you connect with the game. What strikes me most is how the game disappears. The mechanics are still there, the systems continue working, but they stop being the focus. What matters is the feeling of existing in that world, of being part of it, even if just for a few hours. And this is what makes Stalker 2 so unique. The longer you play, the more it stops being a video game, and the more it becomes a real place in your head. Even after hundreds of hours, Stalker 2 continues not trying to impress you all the time. The game does not depend on constant explosions, giant cutscenes, or quick doses of dopamine to be memorable. It simply exists, calmly, and lets you live the moments at your own pace. At the beginning, I was still waiting for that usual spectacle. Epic scenes, grand actions, moments that push you forward every minute. But over time, I realized that what really stays in memory are the quiet moments. That long journey along an abandoned road, the sound of the wind passing, the tension of knowing that something might appear out of nowhere. Nothing explodes, nothing is grand, but even so, it gets recorded in your head. This choice of not forcing emotion all the time is what makes the experience so honest. The game doesn't scream, "This is important" at you. It doesn't push you to a climax every 5 minutes. It lets you breathe, observe, feel. And when something truly impactful happens, the weight is much greater because it was not prepared with excess noise and spectacle. The absence of quick dopamine also changes how you connect with the world. Instead of seeking the next explosion, the next beautiful scene, you start to value the small moments. An unexpected shootout, an anomaly storm, a strange encounter, everything gains meaning because it was lived, not because it was imposed by the game. In the end, what touches me most in Stalker 2 after so many hours is precisely this patience. It doesn't need to impress you all the time to be remembered. It knows that the true impression comes from within, from the way you live in that world, not from how much it pushes emotion on you. And that is what makes it unique. A game that trusts silence as much as noise, and that gains strength precisely by not trying to impress you at every instant.